Hey everybody, it's Eric and this is MSP Mountain, and I wanted to talk about how MSPs tend to get complicated when they have about 5 to 10 technicians, and let's call it 200 tickets a week, or just any stage of growth that's around that sort of like middle stage where maybe you got some nice 7-figure per year US dollar revenue. But you can see with all you've achieved that there's the chance to grow a lot more. But then when you do it, everything goes to chaos. The stuff that you were doing before doesn't really work anymore. And balls are being dropped. You're losing clients because stuff is not happening how you want it to. Now, this is a stage that we've seen a lot in working with people with MSPs, specifically, in the US and UK markets, where they tend to do a really good job at giving really good service to clients. When they're getting like 100 tickets a week, they've got like 3 people working those tickets. So it's an average of, 35 tickets per tech per week. So it's like less than 10 a day and so on and so forth. And the techs are really good with each other on chat, and they're helping each other out. They can still pick up the phone and answer and talk to someone. There's not a gazillion calls a day and stuff like that. So the first thing you need to look at is how is the workflow from ticket to ticket? Because once you get past the stage of like 5 technicians, it's chaos if you still have the technicians answering the phone. It's like literally like they can't concentrate on anything at any time. And since you don't have a proper system in place for dispatching tickets, like most of the companies that are going through these growing pains haven't really had a dispatcher integrated. And if they have somebody answering the phone, they're not well organized. They don't have like standard operating procedures that are written, that everybody knows this is the deal, this is how things are working, this is how tickets get assigned to you as a technician. No, none of that is written down, because until this point, it was really working well to just, hey guys, check the queue for new tickets, assign yourself, do the tickets. If you need some help, escalate on chat, and answer the phone when it rings, create a ticket for the person. If you're super busy, you can tell them you can call them back. But you know what? Yeah, but where the system starts to show the cracks is when you're getting so many tickets, and every time they refresh the queue of tickets, of new tickets, there's like 5 or 7 new tickets on there, and techs are super busy, and so they'll start cherry picking the easy ones to get their ticket counts up. You've told them it's all about just solving the tickets and doing it rather than doing them properly. So they start whipping through tickets quickly, and therefore the documentation starts to decline because they feel they don't have time to do proper documentation, and nobody is actually checking their timesheets. Nobody's actually looking at the tickets after they're closed, because the management is hands off, because they feel super happy with their business having reached a 7-figure per year income, and they want to work on sales. They just want more sales. So operations takes a backseat to sales and growing the business, and the gratification from a business owner actually feeling once that they've made it from their 7-figure income. And the whole thing doesn't scale well after that. We see companies all the time going through these growing pains, and well, I'm here to tell you what actually helps. First, you need someone answering the phones, and you need to get the techs away from answering the phones. You need to train your clients to submit tickets in an orderly fashion with correct information, and you need those tickets to be taken in by somebody who is not actually the person who's doing the tickets. You need the person answering the phone not to be the person who can actually help. If you get a bit bigger and you want to have 2 or 3 people doing triage and seeing if a ticket can be knocked out in 10 minutes, that's great. But otherwise, if you've just had like 3 techs on the desk, the 4th person you should be adding is a dispatcher service coordinator, and that role needs to be well proceduralized. The first step in having a well-managed service desk is having a system that will run that service desk based on certain rules and standard operating procedures. And the person who's enacting that needs to be a dispatcher or a service coordinator, whatever you want to call it. It's not a management role, it's a supervisor role. So if you think that You can just take like your senior tech and tell them that they're managing the service. Now, no, that doesn't work. Techs as managers, bad idea. And a manager as a dispatcher, also not a great idea, because a dispatcher should be given the system by the manager. The manager should write the standard operating procedures, hand it over to a dispatcher who's going to run that methodically, check every ticket on the board every day and make sure that it has next steps scheduled, or it's clear what they're waiting for, or needs escalation. And they are the ones who are assigning that to someone who can solve it, taking it off the person who can't solve it. Next thing, that brings us to escalation policy. Come on, like you need to have an escalation policy that's clear, that gets tickets to people who can solve them and away from people who can't solve them, with notes on why they can't solve them and what they've tried to solve it. I mean, anything else, once you get over a certain size, certain number of tickets per day, certain number of technicians, is going to be chaos. Lots of MSPs default to having Teams or Slack as just like, oh, if you need help, just chat. Well, imagine if there's 100 messages an hour on that Slack. People are posting weird cat memes and stuff like that. At the same time, people are trying to get help and they don't get help. The ticket's still on them. And since there's so many other things flying at them, they forget about that ticket they can't solve. And then it's 2 days later and the client calls and complains and says like, hey, I want to cancel the contract because Billy Bob over here didn't get back to me, and it was super urgent. I told him this, but he forgot about it. This is what a dispatcher will solve. This is what a decent escalation policy that takes it off the plate of the person who can't solve it. Then you need to actually look. Yeah. And the third thing I would say, the third little tip, I've got lots more, but actually let's talk about documentation. Documentation needs to be there. There needs to be a system when documentation isn't there, that someone raises a ticket or reports that the documentation is missing, and there needs to be somebody's job to find out who has the documentation in their head that's missing and get that in the documentation platform. So auditing the documentation, or at the very least, getting somebody to be able to report missing documentation and having someone's job be to fill that in, very important. Because as I said, chat will no longer be a great way to escalate and communicate between team members. It needs to be more formal, and you can reduce a large percentage of the needed escalations if you just ensure that your documentation is there, that it's standardized, that it's all set up. And documentation starts with ticket notes, by the way. Every tech should be keeping complete ticket notes from a business perspective, of did they call the client, did they log onto their machine, did they promise this, did they book a call for tomorrow, did they and then also they need to actually have a technical perspective. Did they log on to the IP address and add a firewall rule? Did they document that in the system? Documenting in the ticket notes whether they changed, updated the documentation. And I've got a ticket note writing guide, and it's useful for this stuff, and it's a freebie we give with any consultation with us or any new client if you want it. But the most important thing there is that every ticket note should end with next steps, escalation required, ticket resolved, hopefully, or waiting for, meaning client or vendor needs to do something. So hopefully they should all be next steps, and the technician knows what to do, and they planned a time when they're going to do it. And then it's very easy for someone like a dispatcher to go and check that every technician has put proper notes on the ticket, that they've got a plan. And if not, they can ping the technician, hey, what's happening with this ticket? And the technician can update the notes. And once you train your techs to do that, then dispatch can be your friend. And this is why you need all this in writing, because if dispatch is randomly enforcing things at random times, that's not written down, agreed that they are standards that the technicians are supposed to follow, guess what? They won't see dispatch as a friend. They will see dispatch as like somebody nagging them, like your mother trying to nag you to brush your teeth when you're a child, that sort of stuff. And the whole thing from there, I mean, it goes really easily. If you just get like these sorts of basics in place, your MSP will grow. But if you don't, it won't grow. No matter like how good you are at selling, how good you are at getting new clients, going into their boardroom and convincing them to sign up. If the service is not consistent, and the dispatcher is there to make consistency the number one thing on your help desk, to make sure people get good customer service again and again and again, so they trust your brand, so they trust your team. That's so important. And if you can work that out, I mean, It's great. And the best way to ensure that that's being done is you actually have to have somebody reviewing the tickets after they're closed. Don't just forget about them. Review them after they're closed. Make sure they had perfect notes. See how the person spent that 45 minutes. See how the escalation went. See that the senior tech who got the escalation in the end actually sent the notes to the tech that escalated it so that they can learn from the escalation, learn from the senior tech who actually did solve it on how they could have solved it when they didn't know how to. And if you put in these simple practices, like you can get past the 5 tech, the 200 tickets a week and all this sort of stuff. But if you don't, your MSP will be chaos. I guarantee it. You'll lose clients and you will not be offering the premium level of service that so many MSPs tell me that they think that they are offering. Basically, like most, I ask people, are you like budget, mid-range, or premium? Most of them say premium, but then I ask them stuff like that. How do you ensure, what's your promise to the clients? And how do you ensure that those promises are met? They don't know the answers. I'm giving you the answers right here, folks. It's good, right? Because I mean, all I can hope is that you watch these videos and then you come to me with having thought about this stuff and thought like, okay, well, this Eric guy really has seen a lot of MSPs fail and succeed and all this stuff, and it just like sort of builds a level of expertise. And I want to work with this guy. How do I do that? That would be nice, but unfortunately, we're in a position right now where I can't work with everybody who wants to work with us. And all of this consulting, these ideas, I'm giving them to you for free because what I actually want is you to work with my company Supported Venture and get full-time dedicated staff from us, and then my company gets recurring revenue. But in dealing with so many MSPs that are making so many of these mistakes again and again, I had to start charging for consulting so that people have buy-in, so that people actually feel that they're paying to make their operations better and have their staff interviewed, have some standard operating procedures that most of them are boilerplate that we have, and we just stick them in their company and things get a lot better. Because rather than just a bunch of dudes sitting in chat all the time, typing to each other with a bunch of nonsense and being distracted all the time, you start to have an organization where every member has the documentation that they need to do the issue, focus so that they can focus on the issue at hand without being distracted by chats from team members, without being distracted by telephone calls from clients who think that they have the right to talk to a tech immediately and have the issue looked at immediately. And they can feel that they have structure that when they can solve something, it gets taken off their plate, or they get quick answers from the right place. Because the signal to noise ratio on the chat might actually mean that you can get through to someone who knows what you're saying, knows the information that you need, and they'll get back to you quickly because there's not a gazillion chats from every which direction all the time. So the biggest takeaway from this should be, if you want to grow your MSP past 5 to 10 technicians, if you want to have more than 200 tickets a week, organize communication through someone like dispatch and make that role constantly evolve to deal with more issues, to deal with more situations that somebody who's organizing things on the behalf of other people can do. It's very important, folks, and this will help you solve what is said in business to be the 7-figure desert, which is basically it's easier, it's harder to get company past 10 million in annual recurring revenue in US dollars than it is to get to like 1 million. So once they get past 2-3 million per year, it's like what you have to do to actually get a company past that requires a lot more organization culture, company culture, mentoring and trying out different stuff and strategy and delegation to competent management. Then $1 million is not enough, is not a lot of money anymore. It's just not. And what you have to do to get there, you don't really have to do that much. We fix computers, okay, sign up a bunch of companies on monthly revenue So it's over 100 grand a month, and then you get that revenue and continue to hobble along, sign more deals. Your service desk becomes chaos and stuff like that. No, what you need to do now, if any of this resonates with you, sit down and write down how your service desk should function. Once that's in writing, get somebody who's going to hold the staff accountable for following that. I wish you the best of luck. And thanks a lot. My name is Eric. This is MSP Mountain. Support Adventure is my company. We provide staff and consultation and all that sort of good stuff. So thanks for watching. I'll catch you later. Bye now.